All right, so good morning. My name is Heidy Canales, and I'm interviewing
Cholula-Lopez.
for the Latinx Oral History Archive on January 18th, 2022. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today. And so we're just gonna jump right into the interview. So can you start off by telling me a little bit about yourself? So tell me about when and where you were born. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up. Did you move around a lot when you were a child? What was your family like? Has your extended family played a role in your upbringing? Just kind of give me a little insight into who Iris is.
So, hello. Like I said, my name is Cholula-Lopez. I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, I guess, November 8th, 1999. So I'm a November Scorpio. But I moved when I was like 2 to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and that's where I've been pretty much my whole life. Most of my family, like my extended family, is either still in New Brunswick, New Jersey, or they're back home in Mexico, Oaxaca, Mexico, which is where like my family's from. First generation here, so that's been an experience. I am number 5 out of 6 children, so always had a lot of people around me and stuff. I got that experience of like having an older sibling looking after me, and then me having to like then do that for my sibling. And yeah.
And then can you also tell me a little bit about like the area that you grew up in? So was it a town? Was it a city? What did your family live around you? Kind of give me an insight about the type of area that you grew up in or were, lived in the longest.
Yeah. So Allentown, it's not super city, but it's not like rural, it's not suburban. Like it has its areas, like depending on where you are, but it is very diverse. I know I did a little bit of research and there was like a huge Latino like influx in the 90s, and I was born in the 2000s, so like that very much was reflected in like my schooling all throughout like elementary, middle, and high school. Always surrounded by a lot of Latinos, Black students, not many Asian students, and not many Caucasian students. So that was the demographics I was always surrounded by. And then family-wise, I only had like one uncle in Allentown. So when I was younger, we would definitely travel over to Jersey a lot to try and get that familial aspect. But obviously, like life gets hectic. So I would say in like the past 5-7 years, we haven't really been like super connected with the Jersey family. So my friends really became that chosen family for me. I guess that would be where my true inclination with my friends comes from, because I didn't have like family around me growing up really. So my friends became my family.
And then what about like any siblings? So you said you had 5, you're the 5th of 6.
Yeah, that's 6. Yeah.
So tell me about a little bit about your relationship with your actual siblings. How did that play out? What's kind of like the age differences that you have going on there?
Yeah. So my oldest one, she is about 28, 29. So there's like an 8-year difference between her and I. She was always like a second mother as being the oldest. That's what I saw her as. And then educational, she was always kind of like the troublemaker, if you will, like always getting into trouble, having not the highest grades. She cut off her schooling in her sophomore year. So at age 16, she dropped out of high school and stuff. And then my second sister, she was the complete opposite, like polar opposite, like the best student. She had the best grades. She was valedictorian of her high school graduation. And both of them were born in Mexico. So that's important to note, because my second sister, she wanted to go to college. Like that was her goal. Like she was very equipped for it. But it had only been 1 year since DACA had started. So she graduated in 2017, and I believe DACA started in 2016. So it was still very new and it was still very like confusing, but she knew she wanted to go to college. So thankfully our high school had like a partnership with the college nearby that we would take credits at. So the principal got to talk to them, and she got to attend that university, Eastern University, on a full ride. She studied nursing. So we're always blessed like with having that, because it's like it would be such a shame. Like she had so much potential. She has so much potential. And then for it to go like not being used because of something. Like she was literally just born there. I was born here and I'm granted the opportunity. Like I always found that really unfair and awkward at times because it's like we're in the same household. But yes, she was always very about her studies. Um, the third, that's my brother, my older brother. We're 2 years apart. So they're all like 2 years apart. So it's like 28, 26. My brother is turning 24. Oh my gosh, she's old. But he's 24 now. But he has severe autism. So he can't talk, he can't really communicate. But the awkward thing is like the irony is that he's like 6 feet. Me and none of my sisters are like 5 feet. Like almost none of us reach 5 feet. And for some reason, my brother's the one that surpasses all. And he's 6 feet. So he's like a giant baby to us. So yeah, it's always been like having to take care of him, which was like like the dynamic. It was like, yeah, you're my older brother, but I always had to look out for him. And then there was me 2 years later, and I thought I was gonna be the last one. Everybody thought I was gonna be the last one. And then 8 years later, my little sister's born. So everybody's like 2 years and then 8. So that's a pretty big gap. But yeah, I was very excited to have a little playmate, and then come to find out they don't move when they're first born. Like they're not really mobile. So, but yeah, that was an interesting experience with her. Definitely the youngest. They're a little bit more spoiled. My parents have like kind of like let go of their like strictness and stuff because my oldest sisters grew up very strict. I was a little bit more lenient, and then my little one can just do whatever she wants at this point. But yeah, so with her, it's been like, I'm here in college. So it's like been a little bit more like, I think she and like my second oldest is the ones that I've been like the furthest apart for the longest amount of time, which is like, it feels kind of weird because it's like I come back and like things are different. She dyed her hair, or like, I don't know, something changed because, she's like 13 now. So things are always changing. But yeah, with her, I also feel like I had to parent her a lot because, there was that gap. She's the youngest, but yeah.
And what about your grandparents? Did your grandparents play any roles in your upbringing or anything like that?
So my grandparents, they still live in Oaxaca, Mexico. They never really came to the States. My grandfather used to actually work at a strawberry farm in Cali, which I recently found out, and I've been bringing up because I'm like, we could have been in Cali and you chose Pennsylvania. Now here I am in the cold. But yeah, there wasn't too much communication with them. I remember like back in the days when you used to buy those $2 like phone card things. We would say hi and bye and stuff like that, but it's like it was just like a voice. Like I didn't get that. I didn't understand it. And then in 2016, when I was 2, I went to Mexico for a little bit and then came back. So I feel like for them, I stayed that age because when I went back for the first time that I remember in 2016, they were just like, you're grown now. Like I have your like outfits from when you were 2 still, like waiting for you. And like, obviously that's not who you are anymore. Like you're grown. So it was definitely just very like inspiring because it's the relationships between my 2 sets of grandparents is very different. One set is very like, they're better off and stuff. However, like financially, but welcoming wise and just like feeling comfortable, it's not all the way there. I don't have the best relationship with them versus my other set of grandparents from my mom's side. They have a smaller house and everything, but everybody wants to go stay with them, so it's always a packed house in there, which I love. Like coming from having so many siblings like that, I prefer that over like a big empty house. So it really taught me, like I always knew it, but like seeing it like so vividly, like you don't need much, you just like need family, you need like good connections and stuff like that. So it definitely helped me like teach with that, teaching me kind of just to take life like slowly, because I feel like the culture is a lot different between like in the States versus other countries. Just like easygoing, day by day, being appreciative of having like food on the table and stuff like that. And I'm like, I do need to like have that mindset. They remind me to have that mindset a bit more while here in the States. But yeah, other than that, I wasn't like connected with them on a daily basis or anything.
And then what did your parents do for a living as you grew up?
So my mom never really worked. I just remember her working like when I was like 4 or something. She worked in like a pencil factory. But because of my brother and because like all the siblings, she never could work because she had to take care of us. And then my father, he always worked in warehouses, like from that's all I remember. So the Beef Braun, I think, company or something like that. So just very manual work is what they always worked in.
And then what about, do you have any like special holidays or observances that you remember, like, or what was some of your favorite memories growing up? It doesn't even have to be tied to like a holiday or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is tied to a holiday. The Christmas when I was 5, I believe, like we went to Jersey. So it was back when we would go to Jersey a lot more often. So I was just always connected with my cousins and my god siblings, and yeah, just remembering like getting there and being together, eating food. Food is also a very important component. I feel that now when I cook by myself and I eat by myself, I get very lonely. But it's like because my mom always made it an experience. Like I'm maybe I'm not cooking with her, but like I'm there on the counter, sitting with her, talking to her, reviewing our day, and then you do get to sit down and just eat with your whole family. So definitely like on a more common basis, just sharing a meal with people would be one of my favorite like things to do as a family. And then that Christmas, just seeing them 5 a.m. making coffee because the conversation is not over. And I'm just like, can we go home? But yeah, just seeing that and seeing how much they wanted to be with each other really made me happy.
And kind of switching over to like your upbringing in terms of like school and education, tell me a little bit about where you went to elementary school, middle school, high school. Like what was the structure? How was the school structured? What kinds of classes like were always the ones that you were like, I'm having so much fun in these.
Mhm.
And then also just kind of thinking about college and how that plays a role, while you're growing up. Did you always have, dreams of going to college?
So with structure, elementary, I went to for the first from kindergarten to the beginning of 5th grade, I went to Hiram Dodd Elementary School. And that one I remember it being very like colorful and green and like just like the walls were painted and they had art displayed all the time. The teachers knew my mom and like they would learn Spanish for her, like obviously like to translate and stuff like that. So I just remember being a more like homey environment. And then I went to and I did like average, like everyone was like good, like grade wise, especially in math. And then in like November of my 5th grade year, I moved to another school called Moser Elementary. And this one was like a lot bigger and it was like had more resources and stuff, but the inside was just like not very welcoming to me. Like that's just the immediate thing I remember. Like the walls were completely white. Look, reminded me of a hospital. I'm like, why do I go to school in a hospital? The teachers and students didn't really have like that relationship that I remember seeing at my other elementary school. But I do remember pretty early on doing really well in the math courses there. And they just came easy to me. And then they placed me in like advanced math and stuff like that. So like I knew like math came easy to me. So I kind of enjoyed it. But I always like, I wish I enjoyed science more just because like it was harder, but like I wanted to learn more. So I would say like that was like the subject I wanted to learn more. And then middle school, I was destined to go to like this one school, um, I don't Harrison Morton, I think, elementary school, and it was a public school. But my mom like heard horror stories about it. She's just like, no, it's a really bad school. Like kids be doing drugs, this and that. And I'm just like, okay. And then around that time, my second oldest sister, she had been going to a charter school and they had expanded it from just high school to now middle school. So I was able to get into that school and I was very excited. I had my little blazer ironed out. I was ready. And that's where I spent from 6th to 12th grade. And my graduating class was of 60 people. So we all got extremely, extremely close. I knew everybody, first name, who your siblings are, who your mom is. Like we got to know everybody very deeply. And yeah, with the structure, I would say middle school, it was divided by like the ABC structure. So it's like the more advanced, average, and the ones that need more assistance is how it was spread out. And then freshman year of high school, we took one course at the community college, and I was going to a writing course, and I was going to determine if you were able to enroll in more college courses or if that's like where you're done, which I always found kind of like, we're ninth grade, like how are we going to make that decision like so like off the bat? But I passed, and then that allowed me to gain my associate's degree while in high school. So shortly after getting my high school degree, got the associate's degree from the community college. And then subject wise in there, I would say writing was my hardest one, and it currently still is. Like Grammarly be saving my life because I cannot write. And then what was the second question? Oh, college, yes. Not really. College wasn't really always in the picture for me. I remember when I was like 17 or so, I kind of wanted to drop out and just like work. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was very unhappy with like I was happy with like my social, like, oh, my friends, I love them. But like school wise, I'm like, I still have like 2 more years left. Like I could be making money. I could be doing this, could be doing that. And I also kind of like wanted to move. So like, I was like, if I work, I can get us to a different place or like rent out a different place. So the thought of dropping out was very much vivid, but I kind of just pushed it to the side. And I thought like long term, I'm like, that's not going to be like what I want to do. And then honestly, like the people around me really influenced me to think about college. Because for a while, my mom and I were like thinking about maybe like esthetician school and stuff like that, like taking that route and just staying like in my hometown. But then seeing everybody else like was going to Penn State, Temple, York University, like all these like people were doing it around me. And so I was just like, oh, sure, let me apply. Applied to Penn State. And yeah, that's where I came. So it was definitely like very much influenced by like my surroundings. So if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Would you say that a lot of people in your hometown, like the path that they take is college, or what are the kinds of things that people usually kind of branch out into after high school graduation?
So for my specific high school, I feel like it's a very brutal awakening for a lot of people because we do take a lot of courses. I just don't think they're as like challenging or like preparing us really. Like, there's other ways to prepare for college other than just taking a whole bunch of courses. So I feel like the norm is to apply to college and go to college, but the amount of people in my class that went to college for one semester, got into some debt, realized it wasn't either for them or it was just like they just couldn't do it, and then they dropped out again with this debt. And it's like we didn't really provide them with other options. I feel like it was just like you go to college, that's your one and only option, so they didn't know anything else. So that's like a very like unfortunate like theme that I saw, at least like definitely my freshman year, the amount of people that like went to a college and then dropped out. And then for those that do try and continue on, it is very, very difficult. We find it like curriculum wise and like expectations and stuff like that to be very, very hard. So we do like rely on each other, like, hey, this is not easy. Like whoever told me this was lying. But so yeah, that's the path that I've been seeing. And most people kind of try and figure out their way, but it's like after graduation when, we could have been using the time while in high school to try and figure that out. But
do you think that that support system is still present even to this day that you had kind of in the beginning, or would you say that that has shifted as people have either gotten deeper into their college paths or have figured out things outside of college?
yeah, I would say the support system has kind of been in the background, but I know like if I do ever need anything, like I can hit them up, like either like, yo, I'm really like debating this right now, I don't want to do it no more, and they're like lift me up. And even when I don't ask for it, but they just know I need it, they'll be like, I'm so proud of you, like you're doing it, da da da. And I'm like, stop it right now, I'll cry. But definitely, like I said, it's not like on a daily. Like I have gained another support system, thank goodness, that I do interact with on a daily, and we do like motivate and uplift each other. But I know I will always have the people that from my hometown that came to Penn State or that like came to Penn State with me. So
And then kind of shifting into like Penn State as a whole. So I'm assuming that you found out about Penn State because of the people around you. But at the end of the day, like, what other schools did you apply to, if any? And then what was the ultimate like deciding factor? Like, what made you say, oh yeah, like this is where I'm going?
Yeah. So I definitely looked into Temple, and I took a trip to NYU, but I realized I didn't like the city environment, at least for schooling. It just felt very, because I'm very much like, if I'm in school, I'm in school. Like it switches versus in the city, it's a lot more like, like it's like city, like locals and stuff like that, and the school all intertwined. And it's like there's no like clear differentiation between that. And I feel like I wouldn't succeed in that environment. So early on, I knew that wasn't a thing. And I applied to like more local schools like Cedar Crest, which is like 15 minutes away from my house. And Penn State was kind of like a safe school because like again, seeing so many people go there, I'm like, okay, it's possible. Like I know it's possible. And then Cedar Crest was just like, in the event that something happens, we're gonna go here. And then the University of Delaware, and yeah, that was also one that I was looking into. And then really like far out, Stanford. So in Cali, I really like wanted to go there. So maybe for grad school, but just trying to be a bit more realistic with financial things. I'm like, UD is out of state, Cali, even the flight, like that's just gonna be a lot in and of itself. So being realistic with myself, Penn State just seemed like the option.
And what were like your impressions of Penn State before you actually came? So you said that there was a lot of people that came to Penn State, you know, before you, that you knew, that you had a relationship with. So what was the impression that you had before you came to Penn State? And then what would you say? And would you say that that impression has kind of lived up, like your experience has lived up to that you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. So my impression of it was definitely that it was like a fun party school, like yeah, that also that it was just like that you found like your community within this grand university. Like there wasn't gonna be a lot of people that looked like you, but you're gonna find them, and you know you're gonna be friends with them, and there's a lot of resources as long as you look out for them. That was like the main like advice and like overview that I usually got from the upperclassmen, and I would say it definitely lived up to it in a variety of ways. I feel like perhaps having that support group for different things could have, like, that's definitely something that is different that I didn't expect. Like there are people you go to like maybe in your major that for like academic help or something like that. There's people you go to for emotional health, you know, things like that, or like emotional support that I feel like wasn't really like emphasized when being described to me, but it's something like I have found that is true. So
And then how about like when you actually came to Penn State? So now like you're ready to, you know, come and stay here. Like you're not going back to Allentown anytime soon. Do you remember those feelings? Like what do you remember about, you know, maybe that first day when you were packing your car or whatever, however you got here? Like what do you remember about that day?
I remember actually worrying more so about my siblings because my parents came to drop me off, and so my sister had to stay with my brother. So we actually had to leave at like 4 a.m. And for some reason, my other two roommates also left at 4 a.m. I'm like, y'all don't have to, but they were like, no, we just want to go together. So I was like, okay. So we all met up at a Wawa at like 4 a.m. Drove up here. We got here by like 7. You know, went to the Bryce Jordan Center, got our keys. And then just checked in. And so the whole time it was kind of just like, for me personally, it was very like, we got to unpack because we got to go, we got your siblings. So it was like, even though it was my day, I still had to like stress about them. But then once they like left and everything, yeah, me and my two, it was like three roommate, you know, room. So after everyone left by like 12, we were already set. So we're like, okay, we have the whole day ahead of us. What are we about to do? I just remember it being very like, okay, we just like, at least we have us. Like there's this big university. We don't know anybody else like immediately because like everybody was also unpacking or like not here yet. So we ate in like Our closet was like huge, so we just ate in our closet. My mom had packed me some green tamales, so we heat that up and we were just eating in a circle like that first night by ourselves. um so yeah, from the first day, I guess I would just remember that like I have them again with the support from back home. Like I'm like, whatever happens, at least I know I have you guys.
And then do you think that as you're so let's think more so on like the first semester, and then you can answer it based on your more wider Penn State view after your first semester. But do you feel that people had a good understanding of your culture when you first arrived at Penn State, and then how has that kind of shifted, or has it shifted at all since then?
So when I first came, I thought people at least had like a respectful like understanding, like just respectful of people's cultures and stuff. Maybe not a full on understanding, but that was okay. Given like my first semester, it is a lot of gen ed courses, so it was with like a lot of people from a lot of majors, but the majority was still like white. So with that, I didn't really experience anything like negative. I was kind of just like, oh, okay, like I represent my culture, you represent yours, and that's like that level of respect again. But you may not be super immersed in mine, I'm not super immersed in yours, but at least we respect it. So that was my impression of the first semester. And then as time went on, it was kind of very evident that at Penn State, it's either like there's people obviously who I said have that at least level of respect. There's people who are more immersed and do want to learn more about it, and maybe they have Spanish majors, minors, and they just indulge themselves in the culture. And then there's people who are just like very ignorant, very ignorant, disrespectful to the culture, which it was kind of like a rude awakening for me. Like I'm like, it's 2021, it's 2022, like what are we doing here? But yeah, so I would like, it's more than just yes or no. Like it's more than just that.
And how about friends wise? Do you think that you've met or made friends that you share your culture with? And then kind of going back to that idea of feeling supported, do you feel supported at Penn State?
So friends wise, yes. My second semester of my freshman year, I joined a Latina sorority. So there we go. But with them, it's also obviously like having the different cultures in Latin America and stuff like that, exposing them to like Mexican, like specifically Mexican culture. But regardless, I did feel like respected, welcomed, and like encouraged to dive even more into my culture, which was like something that I wasn't expecting. But that's very nice. And in my organizations, they are very heavily like involved in the Latino community, like with Latino Caucus and the Mexican American Student Association. It's just like kind of a given with that. And then also my friends, they're all very like respectful and curious. Like, yeah, I would say curious, but like, obviously, like I said, in a respectful way, just like wanting to learn more, which was like really refreshing for me. And I really enjoy that. And then with support system, I would say I have relied a lot more on the advisors that are in my college. I'm in the College of Education, so we do have like the Equity Center in the College of Education. It has like, Brenda, Maria in them, and they have become extremely important to me, along with Gary Abdullah. He's like for the College of Comm. So I have no business being in comm, but I have business with Gary. So them, I definitely, given that it's my senior year, just reflecting on my time, literally, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here, just with like connecting me with resources, but also being that person that can kind of just listen to whatever I'm going through and give me advice if need be, and that can kind of relate to my situations. So they have also become a very big support system for me.
And what has kept you grounded here at Penn State, like grounded to your roots? What has kind of kept you in, grounded?
Yeah. Honestly, I would say music has played a huge role in my life at Penn State beforehand. Like obviously my mom would play her music and I would just be like, oh my God, can we change it to anything else? But then coming here and it's just like not hearing that. ever. Like, Saturday morning, wake up at 8 a.m., you hear it, she's cooking, cleaning, and not getting that experience anymore. It's like I had to do that for myself. So just like, you're walking around campus and like nobody looks like you, but it's fine because you're out here with your music and you're just having a blast. And it's also like a good reminder for when you go into a classroom, like, you do have your headphones in, and like for me, like the music I'm listening to, and then it's like, okay, I sit and I see things from a more perspective, like a more Latino based perspective, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, because like I just got out of the party, like in my head. So now I'm in class, so I get to like speak from that perspective a little bit more.
And thinking about like the differences between your hometown and State College, what are some of the big markers that you would say that define, Allentown in comparison to State College or vice versa? And then what's different about living here, in comparison? And what in-state college do you find, or if anything, it doesn't have to be anything, but are there things in State College that have kept you, at home in a way?
Mm-hmm. So the biggest difference I would say between Allentown and State College would definitely be like the population and the diversity of it. Like I said, in Allentown, never felt like a minority. Like I was just Iris, and then here it's like, okay, Iris, insert in a specific group, and it's just like, okay, why can't I just be Iris? But when you look at me and like my class, you're like, whoever's here, like it's very different that wise. And then State College, it's a lot more like mountains and stuff and just nature, which is both good, but it's also like when my friends from Allentown come up here, it's like they lose service, they're not connected to the Wi-Fi, they're like, you literally live in the mountains, and I'm like, yeah. So it also gives you a bit more of a relaxed like feel, I would say, because everybody's aware that everybody's a student here, versus in Allentown, it's like everybody's in different stages of their lives. So with that, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like in Allentown, I feel more of an adult. Like, I can't just go out with my sweats and slides because I'm an adult now. Versus in State College, everybody be in their sweats and slides. So that's something that I found like interesting, like an interesting difference. I don't really know, like, I haven't really dived into like what that means, but that Allentown has a lot more food options. First of all, like the food options we get in State College are very, not it. They don't really remind me of home, which
What
is
would
something.
you say is like your best one, your favorite one out of the ones that are here?
Yeah. Lupita's I've only ate at like 3 times, but I really like I liked it. And Jefe's I've been to twice, and their chicken tacos are pretty all right. So yeah, those are my options here. So definitely taking that for granted when I'm in Allentown. But there's a lot more I would say there's a lot more to do here. Like like little things just like bowling or ice skating, climbing the obstacle courses, things that are around here, the paintball field thingy that's around here, like around 15 minutes away. Yeah, those are things that I feel like in Allentown, either like I didn't think we don't have it, or I never thought about looking for it. Like, yeah.
And then you kind of made an interesting comment about, the life here is kind of different. It's very different because, it's all surrounded by students and like you're in the mountains. So it's a little bit slower and things like that. And you kind of made that same reference to Mexico and how you kind of kept, you like that aspect of, the culture and like just kind of taking day by day. So do you think that, this environment has kind of played a role in keeping that mindset, or kind of like break that down a little bit, because I thought that was interesting?
Yeah. So no. I don't know. I feel like it's like people here, I feel like we're focused on other things besides like our like the appearance and stuff. I feel like classes, like applying to things, internships and stuff like that, that's what takes it away, rather than just like enjoying the moment. Like rather than just like living and experiencing things. Okay, so you're not too concerned about like having a rushed lifestyle, versus here it's like you just don't look it, but there's like 10,000 million things going on in your laptop, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And what about class-wise? So kind of thinking about like your, what you studying, your classes. What class do you think that you've had has been the easiest? What class has been the hardest or the most difficult? And also, like you mentioned that you were in education. What did your parents or your family think when you decided to take that route?
Yeah. So the hardest, I would say, surprisingly for me, math of money. I don't know why I could never get that one. And it's like about credit cards and stuff like that. So it's something I'm gonna need in my life. But for some reason, that was like the most difficult one. And it was also the scariest one, the fact that it was difficult because they are life things. Like I should know this. Why am I having a hard time understanding a credit card bill? I'm gonna struggle like later on and stuff. And then the easiest for me would be like my social justice and education courses because they're very discussion based. Like, so I've personally always like succeeded in those because you do the readings, you have insights, and you discuss them. So those have been the easiest for me this far. And I was originally a psychology major, and with my parents, it was kind of like, okay, you're going to be a psychologist. Like that's the only route, right? And then I switched over to education and public policy, and they didn't really understand what that meant, and they kind of still don't. And just the fact that it has the word education in it, my mom's just like, you're not going to get a lot of money from that and stuff like that. So trying to explain to her, like, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to teach. I want to make policy for education. So trying to educate them at the same time, I'm trying to figure out what jobs I can get with this degree. So I'm like, give me a second. I'm trying to figure it out myself. But yeah, I think my mom like kind of like trusts, like, okay, like she knows what she's doing. She got it. She'll figure it out. So at least that's helpful because I know if like I had someone constantly like, you should switch your major, like it would make me doubt because, I switched rather late anyways. So
And what about things that you got involved in? So you mentioned that you joined a Latina sorority your second semester here at Penn State. What other extracurriculars or clubs or groups or programs have you been involved with throughout your time at Penn State?
So the fall semester of my sophomore year, I got involved with Latino Caucus. There was an opening for the VP of Communications, and normally I would have never done that, but my support group, they were just like, you got it, you can do it, like you're equipped with the tools, you can do it. Did my little speech, got it. It was an amazing experience. I loved everyone on the board. And then shortly after that, in December, I went to, so like I said, I'm in a sorority, and every sorority is under like a council, and we have these really grand meetings with every single person in that council. And it was election time, and they had an opening for the vice president of standards, which is like, taking attendance, looking at the excuse forms, having to find people if need, just like standards, like making sure members and chapters are up to standard. And I went in just to cast my vote. I did not have any intentions of running or anything like that, but reading the description, like it seemed doable. And in order to like run, you have to get nominated by 3 organizations. So 2 organizations were pushing me, and then the other one like found out about it, so they were pushing me. So I was like, fine, again, made my speech, got in it. And then that's when I kind of learned like internally there was like a lot of structural things that we needed to like fix. So like my first year, I would say I was just like focusing on that. And then I continued with that. And the following election cycle, I ran for the vice president of the Multicultural Greek Council and gained that. And then in the spring semester of my junior year, wait a minute. Honestly, I get it all mumbled up. But then I also became the vice president of communications for the Mexican American Student Association. And then that upcoming cycle, I ran for the president of the Mexican American Student Association, and I got it in April of 2021. Yeah, April 2021. So I would say it's like one of my most recent positions. And then all throughout this, one of my a community member was like a intern for the bilingual intern for the admissions office, and they would often host student panels and would like invite me to them. And I always found their work to be very like honorable, I guess I would say, like me being in education and like striving for like educational equity. I'm like, there's an amazing opportunity for high school students to come learn about like college in general and then Penn State and get to like talk to people, because I know that's something I didn't really get. Like I got it from my friends, but it's like getting it from like a diverse group of people would have been really helpful. So I always really loved the work that the office did. And when they graduated, I took over the position. So that's my most recent like involvement, the bilingual intern for the admissions office. And
And then what was your experience finding those jobs? Because I mean, you mentioned you had like that intern in the office. So would you say it was rather easy, rather difficult? Kind of walk me through that.
yeah, so for that one specifically, I knew there was an opening because like the previous person had just graduated. So just like putting myself out there. It was actually pretty difficult for me, like personally, but like I said, I got them to like whisper in my ear, like, you got it, you've been involved with them before, you can do it. So I'm like, okay, I wrote the email, did the application, went through the interview and stuff like that, and got the job. And I was like, it's like it's an internship and they know me. I've worked with them before, but still like just like the amount of doubt I had going into it was like is what made it hard. But like I did that to myself. Like I put that doubt in myself. Like no one else, everyone else was telling me I could do it. The office people were being very nice to me, and so it was just me. So that kind of stresses me out for like post grad, but I'll just keep this in mind. But yeah, I would say it was easy because I knew the previous person who was taking over that position.
What about did you have any other jobs while you were in college, like throughout your time here at Penn State? Have you held any other jobs? If so, what was your experience looking for and getting those? And then also like outside of work, outside of school, like what did you like to do for fun, or what do you like to do for fun? Either here in State College or in your house, like what kinds of things kind of, taking away all that stress that comes with just being here?
Mm. So freshman year and stuff, in high school, I worked at CVS as a cashier. So with that, I just had to work like once a month to keep my like profile active, I guess. So that's what I would do my freshman year. And then when I went back home, I would work like longer shifts at CVS, and I became a shift manager like my sophomore year. So that's what I was doing that summer. And then um, during winter break, I think in 2020, I realized that it was just like not enough like hours that I needed to like be able to be okay, because I really didn't want to work during the semester. Like I knew I just wanted to focus on school, and I knew CBS wasn't like with the hours and the wage, it just wasn't allowing me to do that. So I started working at Amazon as a warehouse like associate, and that kept me motivated to stay in school, because I knew like I just couldn't work in that environment for like decades to come, like my parents had and like other associates had. So that's what I had been doing. That's where I work winter and fall breaks. But yeah, other than the admissions office job, the other ones don't really pertain to my major or like my interests. And then just for funsies, I got into plants my freshman year. Like I got my first one, and since then I've just been acquiring more and just like taking care of them. It's like a pet, but like I don't gotta feed it like that, you know what I mean? But like I still get to watch it grow and stuff like that. And obviously like it goes through its phases, and it's like been it's gonna sound very corny, but it's been like a good visual for like life. Like sometimes I think it's dead. Like there's no coming back from this. You're dead, you're gone to the plant. And then in a week or two, it'll come back with like a new leaf. So I'm like, wow, okay, I can do it. Like, you know, um, that and honestly just like random activities on campus, like when they like announce that they're having a carnival, or they announce they're having like an ice skating thing, or the arboretum is having a new show, the arboretum like being like the garden and stuff like that, which I really like to be surrounded by that. So yeah, just like any pumpkin carving, painting, any like random little thing that I can do that takes like me off like a screen, or and I just get to connect with people. Like I value like the quality time.
And then I feel like I need to ask this because of the fact that we have a unique educational experience in comparison to some of the other interviewees that I've had. But how would you say that COVID has played a role in your college experience? And do you think that, yeah, just kind of, I'm just going to keep it broad. Like, how do you think COVID has impacted your college experience?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to at least have a year and a semester, like a few months like of experience. So I definitely clinged on to those like as much as I could. Like, no, it's like we're gonna be fine after the pandemic. We're gonna go back to this. I remember going to this. I remember doing that. I remember connecting with them. Like just grasping on those memories and hoping like I'll be able to make more. I feel like that's what kind of kept me a bit sane during when we were virtual and stuff. And then now going, I am like physically on campus and going to on campus events. It's a little sad because it's like not the same at all. And it's like, even though we try and hype up like certain events, like for example, Ashe was a wonderful turnout and I really loved it. And it's like, that's like word of mouth because these younger generations never been to one. So it was like up to the older heads to like tell them like, hey, like this is a really good event. You should really pop out. Da, da, da. So it's like, I wish we did that with like more events to try and bring back like how it was like before the pandemic. Um, but yeah, so it's been like just knowing how it was before and seeing how it is now with like events wise and like turnout wise, it is a little like disappointing, but I do try and make the best out of it, at least like within myself. Like if I can't, round up a huge group of people, at least like for an event, it will just be like me and my friends, or like trying to take time off and just appreciating the last few months that I have here on campus and trying to make the most out of that, like in my own way. And I need to like let go of the expectations I had. Like I thought it would be immediate before pandemic, but I need to let that go. Things have changed and I just need to like accommodate and make the best out of it.
Yeah, I can definitely agree to those sentiments a lot. Definitely can. And kind of just to start wrapping up this interview, because I don't want to take up your entire day for me, but okay, I'll ask this question first. What could Penn State do to help with Latino, Latina, Latinx students? What could it do to make Penn State and university life better for Latina, Latina, Latinx students?
I feel like just normalizing our culture, like with things like music or like food, like catering. Like why is it always Panera? Why is it always like it's always like these I don't know, like they don't have to, at least for me. And also obviously like addressing when like racial incidents happen, like addressing them and taking them more seriously and like actually having like some form of consequence to at least show like that's not okay, that's not tolerated, because that's something like I feel like it's been lacking and it's not very reassuring for me, or like even feeling like safe. It's just like, okay, well, if something happens, they're not really gonna take it as serious as I wish they would. And I feel like, again, like just implementing our culture and stuff like that on a day-to-day basis could maybe help with that. Like, honestly, I don't even, like, that's something I know I would appreciate making it, because like you only ever see our food, hear our music when it's a event like for us, hosted by us. And it's like, maybe if the university hosted it, that'd be nice, that'd be cute, take the work off of us and it just be like fun. Yeah, I would say that, and also just providing more resources like the one I mentioned in the College of Ed and like Gary. Like we really Penn State really underestimates the power that a good mentor and a good guidance can have on students, especially like Latino, Latina, Latinx students, first gen students. Like you don't have anyone else to turn to in your family for these things. So it's like having those people, I feel like they're very underestimated and we need to work to get people like designated for that, which I know like the MRC has like, those counselors for that. So maybe like utilizing them more, or like promoting that more, I guess I'd say.
And then, how do I want to ask this? Okay, I'm gonna ask this one before I ask the last question. But is there a person that really changed the course of your life by something that he or she did or said? How did it happen? And do you remember someone saying something that had a big impact on the way that you lived your life? And then what was said and who said it, if you did?
Mhm. So I would definitely say one of my sisters, Frances Gladys Pulido, she actually became my admin when I was going through the pledging process for my sorority. And that's like the person that guides you through everything and ensures like you succeed and just everything. So like having that my freshman year and like getting instilled with like so much knowledge that she had, like knowledge on like the university, knowledge on like emotional things like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. That's stuff like I never knew about, but like she taught me that, and she taught me ways to like overcome it. And even though she graduated the same semester that I got to know her, we still obviously kept in contact and constant contact. And anything that I would do, like she would always be like proud of it and stuff like that, which was like kind of like a Penn State motherly figure, because like obviously I tell my mom like, oh look, I got the position for like president of whatever, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, that's nice. But it's like they don't understand how much, it took to get there, like how much work it entails. But Frances Gladys does. And she constantly like reminded me, like just affirmed me and assured me everything was gonna be okay. And getting her back, because now she's doing her grad school here, I'm just like, you came back to me. Just like pushing me and inspiring me to like do things that I often think are either not for me or out of reach. The biggest example would be like homecoming. Like they're the one that like nominated me for it. They pushed me to apply. I was like, okay, like I don't like I'm seeing the homecoming page and I'm like, no, nobody looks like me. I'm not about to get this. But they really like always sending me like good luck messages and stuff like that. Like, and we made it, got to do it. And in other things where like, they obviously like honor your work and efforts. And it's like I often don't realize that, but she's not like, people see it, you're appreciated, like you do a lot, this and that. So it's like just having that constant person like being like my little cheerleader, like at all times, and they understood it. Yeah, I would say like that was a very like life-changing person that I got to meet here at Penn State.
And then last question, do you feel pride in being this Penn Stater thus far?
Pride, yes, I would say, just because you make out of Penn State like what you want, basically. So maybe like when I say I'm a proud Penn Stater, that may look different for other people. Like they may think like, okay, football games and things like that. And I'm like, yes, but it's also like my own perception of what Penn State is, at least through like my community's eyes, if that makes sense. Like I'm proud of being a Penn Stater and being proud of like what I have done on campus and like the connections I have made, maybe the resources like I've put onto like other people, the change perhaps. So I feel like we can always do more, but definitely in pioneering certain changes. The most recent one I like could think of was ensuring DACA recipients get in-state tuition, and Penn State's the first and only school in Pennsylvania to offer that. And I'm actually working with the person who helped like spearhead that. So like things like that, I'm like, wow, Penn State, like, they can be pioneers in certain things, but like I said, there's obviously still more that can be done. But I do feel like they are sometimes like the blueprint or like the first for like a lot of schools in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Well, that was my last question for you. So thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today.
Of course.